I'm here with a very special guest, Sarah Grace Jones, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Who recently just, is it okay to use the word quit?
Yeah.
Okay. Recently just quit working for Jared at Intermountain Audiology and Hearing and Brain Centers of America in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So I asked her to come in today, asked her if we could go through an exit interview where I have a few questions for her. You're going to see this exit interview maybe be a little bit more personalized just because I know SG. She's been around for a while. She's a personal friend, so I kind of know behind the scenes a little bit more of why she came home versus maybe another employee. I wouldn't know any of that information, and I truly would be, not understanding the situation here. I'm going to more play dumb. The point of this for us is to understand how can we improve. So anytime we do an exit interview with somebody, all I'm trying to find out is leadership teams, the good, the bad, the stress that we put on the employee, maybe some indicators as to why they left the company, things that we can control that we can improve on. If she says, I had to leave because something happened with a family member and it was outside of our control, nothing we can improve on. It's just me, bidding her a fond farewell. Do you need a letter of recommend? Is there anything I can do to help you? And otherwise, they're on their way. This wouldn't happen for all employees. Obviously, somebody quits or gets fired on the spot and it ends in bad terms. It's not going to happen. But for an employee like Sarah that had a ton of respect from her coworkers, had a great career with us and parted ways like mutually, why not? Why not find out how we can improve? So, is that cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do it.
So Sarah, how long were you with the company total? Do you know?
About a year and a half, I think.
And majority of that was spent in St. George,
Yes.
main office.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long were you actually in Arizona?
I moved to Arizona June of last year and then came home in February.
And that was like June, it literally just opened. You were there when we opened the doors?
June wasn't actually open yet, so I was working from home on the back ends doing some phones things, and then we opened the clinics in November.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how was like working the phones beforehand on that transition? How did that differ from all the time you spent in St. George? Did you prefer the at-home work or did you like being in the busy office?
A little bit of both. It was very different than in the office. It was very slow and not as many hours. I wasn't working as many hours, but it was just different, and it was kind of easy, I would say, just under the weather, just going and doing stuff. Yeah.
Working less hours at home.
Yeah.
Right. The hours in the office were good though.
Yep.
Full-time hours, everything was good there.
Yep.
Tell me about like the St. George environment, because that's Jared's busiest office. It has the most employees, the most patients. It's a little chaotic.
Yep.
Tell me about like the good and the bad of St. George.
I love the St. George Clinic. I love the employees there, my coworkers, the patients. The environment is very different than a two-person clinic, which was how Arizona is run, but very busy compared to those other clinics, which is a good thing, but switching to those two-person clinics was an adjustment for sure.
Yeah. So if you like between the two, you had your choice between the busy office and lots of people and just the two-person office, which one would you rather have?
It kind of depends. I enjoyed the two-person clinic, but I also enjoyed the busy environment and lots of people coming in and out and stuff. Yeah. I don't know if I prefer one or the other.
If you were a business owner, you could wave magic wand to change anything. What would you change about the St. George location?
I think the St. George location honestly has a lot of turnover, and that's hard on employees to always be going through
the morale.
Yeah, and always training somebody and always trying to get catch up and stuff. There's just a lot of turnover in that clinic.
Right. In the St. George office, the people that work there though, the ones that didn't have turnover, that you were there for a long time, good people, good hires.
Great people. Yes.
Nobody that like you would change around there.
Mm-mm.
What was it like in St. George versus being down in Phoenix? Like Morgan's in St. George, Reese is here, Jared's here. Some of the team leaders like Dr. Sterland are here. So you have like more leadership in St. George. Did you notice when you made the transition to go to Phoenix, did you get like less time with leaders and you craved that, or you didn't really notice any kind of a difference?
I didn't notice much difference. When I needed help, I always was comfortable reaching out and asking for help. I don't know what that would be like for a new hire in Arizona that doesn't have that relationship already, because I had that relationship in St. George and it carried over.
What was like the thing that you loved the most about the job?
I loved my coworkers. I really loved my coworkers, but I loved the patient care. You know, my label was patient experience coordinator, and I really did enjoy the patient experience and making that good for them.
You were a part of a ton of trainings. Like anytime we did training, I always remember Sarah being there. Is like, I would consider that the culture. You call it the people, but like the culture of IMA. And when I say IMA, I mean like the St. George Clinic. Tell me about like the culture. When you say that you like love the people or the trainings that you're a part of, or like how they interacted with you, how they interacted with patients. What is the culture at the St. George office like? How would you describe it?
One of the words that comes to my mind is transparent. Everybody has the same goal. Everybody has the same, going on the same path, even if we go a little bit different ways a little bit, but everybody has the same end goal in mind. And I think it's great from leadership and management to be transparent like that too, so we can all get there together.
Yeah. When you got down to Arizona, because there's less people there, and the people in Arizona were new, how was the like strength of the culture compared? Like not as much about the transparency, but like you could feel it in St. George, and those people, like you said, we're all aligned, we're all marching in the same direction. How did it feel in Phoenix?
That's a good question. I think it was a little bit different because when I started at St. George, the people that were in St. George had been there for a while, and so I was kind of the newbie. But going down to Arizona, I was the only one that had been working there before, and so it changed a little bit from me following and listening to other people into me not being the voice, because everybody has the voice down there, but it's like just being the person they go to in a way.
So when you got to Phoenix, you felt like more of a leader or less of a leader?
More of a leader.
And that was good or bad?
Good.
So it was like something that gave you encouragement. Do you wish, when you were in St. George, all the time that you were here, do you feel like, looking back on it, do you wish you were given more of a leadership position earlier? Like if you could have been put in a similar situation, but in St. George with all these other people, would that have been better or worse? Or?
I think at the point in my life, personally, I was ready to move out of St. George, so I don't know if that would have made the biggest difference for me, but I really did enjoy in the Phoenix area having more of that leadership and more things to do in that way.
How would you, since we're on leadership, how would you describe like the actual leadership team at IMA, whoever you would identify that as, Jared, Spencer, whoever?
It's great, and leadership is awesome, and my co-workers, the doctors, the providers that were more in the leadership role were still very understanding, and it was never like anybody was ever put on a pedestal or on a drawing board or whatever. It was all the same, but I knew who to go to for help.
Everybody was equals though.
Yeah, yeah.
Is leadership, particularly like in the St. George office, leadership something for you, room for improvements? Like what could they have potentially done better or given Sarah as an individual more access to or more time with?
I think when I very first started in 2021, I don't know, when we had a manager, and the manager was in the office, I feel like that kind of put a lot more pressure on the teammates of trying to please the manager instead of the teammates and the employees helping each other out to be better. It was more the manager is coming down on us to
Is it like it micromanaging, or that's not the right word?
I wouldn't say that's the right word, but it felt like the manager was looking at things differently from the employees who are actually in the clinic, and we know what's going on and we know what we want to do, but the manager is trying to pull us in a different way.
How much of, when you made the transition, you were in St. George, and then you made the transition down to Arizona, how much of that transition was because of the clinic? Like not personal life, wanting to leave St. George, but how much of it was like inside the clinic you wanted to maybe get away from a manager, you wanted to just try something new? How much of the move was because of leadership team or people in St. George?
I don't think any of it really. I love the people in St. George, and the leadership at the time was great, and I don't think I was trying to run away from anybody.
Just wanted new personal experience to go down.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So St. George office, awesome, great experience, not a whole lot of improvement there. One other thing that I want to like get your 2 cents on though is like the turnover. So obviously high turnover has always been a thing. High expectations has always been a thing. Tell me, like as an employee, what goes through your mind when you get an email from Jared or however it happens that so-and-so is no longer on the team? what happens next? Like, is there a text message chain that like, oh my God, everybody panics? Or is there like another email that comes, or you all wait Monday and then you're like, oh, did you hear? Did you hear? Or how does it like funnel into the actual team?
Well, I'm trying to think. One of the most recent employees that is no longer with us, I remember nobody had any idea that she was leaving or being let go or however it happened. But then on the L10 that Monday, we all realized that her face was off of 90 and all of her stuff is gone, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, there's one of our teammates that just left. And then it doesn't necessarily get gossipy or anything, but everybody's wondering. Like, everybody's curious.
And you guys talked about it on L10?
We didn't talk about it on the L10, yeah.
And then how did you guys like start to circulate the information though? Just the rumor mill was going, or was there an email? Okay.
No, there wasn't an email thread or a text thread from any management or leadership or anybody in St. George, that clinic. It just kind of
And what's your 2 cents? Like, would you, all being done again, would you prefer an email? Would you prefer a meeting done on the L10? Like, what's a good way as an employee to realize you just lost a team member?
I think a great way, when I was leaving hearing and brain centers, I put it in a headline that, hey, it's my last couple of weeks. Right. And again, it was a mutual thing and we're kind of all on good terms, but in that kind of situation, a headline of, hey, so-and-so is no longer with us, email me if you have any questions. Yeah. Instead of just, oh, our teammate's gone.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The one that left last, if it's the same person I'm thinking of, did you, like, as a fellow employee, did you, like, kind of see it coming, though? Like, did you see lack of performance going down? So you kind of knew.
I did, but I don't know if everybody did.
Else knew.
Because I felt like I was kind of in more of a position to really understand that and see that kind of stuff than somebody who might have been a new hire or somebody who just started.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
And I think if I switch my mindset into I'm a new hire, and then all of a sudden one of our teammates is gone out of the blue, in a way I feel like that could make me start thinking and wondering about just like, not necessarily safety, but structure-wise as a new hire.
How long am I gonna last?
Right.
Why did it happen?
Right. And my mind doesn't go there because I know how stable it actually is, even if people come and go. Yeah. But as a new hire, I think an email thread is a little bit better.
So you're not just like wondering.
Up and gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and not just lost. That makes sense. On the one that got let go, and anytime anybody's been let go, because I don't think that was you experienced a few. Yeah. Like you saw the manager leave, you saw employees leave. Is there anything on the employee side, like fellow employees, that leadership could do differently to like have less of a turnover rate, or now that you're gone, do you think the turnover rate is like a good thing? Is it a negative thing now that you're out, or like you said you saw that one person coming to an end? So is that like the leadership team was doing something wrong, or that employee just wasn't performing, or they started to go down a wrong path, they never recovered? Is it a bad thing to you now that you're out, and what could anybody do differently to change the turnover rate?
I don't think it's a bad thing, and even while I was in the company, I didn't think it was a bad thing because, again, I knew the safety and the structure and the reason behind everything. There's only turnover because that person wasn't right for the seat, and that person wasn't necessarily doing their job. I don't think there was anything more that management could have done in a lot of those situations. It's just sometimes how it goes and when the employee isn't in the right seat. And I think it's important to kind of weed those people out because one rotten apple spoils the whole barrel. Yeah.
Good for the culture.
Yeah,
and it helps everybody stay aligned.
Yeah.
Okay. Most stressful part of your job, like what more than anything through the whole time you were just like, God, I can't, this is not for me, I can't handle it, I don't want to do it, I want no part of it?
I'm going to be honest, I did not love the phones, and that was a big part of my job.
Did you know it was part of your job when you were hired?
Yeah.
So you kind of knew. But then like reality hit of like, okay, these phone calls suck.
Yeah.
The patients don't know, or the marketing X, Y, and Z, or like it's just miserable.
And it kind of changed because I didn't mind too much when I was in St. George, but it kind of changed in Arizona when I was the only one making phone calls and the only one taking phone calls in Arizona. Right. And it was just all put on me instead of being able to like collaborate and talk with teammates about that. Like, you're
kind of in your own silo. There's nobody to like decompress to or talk about.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What could have been done differently on the phones in your mind? Or you just like want no part of them? You just delete it.
I don't necessarily want no part of them because that's, again, one of the things I loved was making the patient experience great. I loved being the first one they talked to, the first one they saw when they came into the clinic, but I don't know. I don't know what I would have changed about the phones.
Do you feel like leadership knew that phones were an issue for you? Like, did you ever voice your opinion and say like, hey, I'm not having a great time here?
I don't think I ever voiced my opinion, but I don't know, because Jared likes to send out the call conversion rate, and mine never really improved, and I could see how that would be like a red flag, but at the same time, I just didn't like the phones enough to be able to get myself to be better either. Yeah, and I'm sure that management saw that too.
Sure. Is there, but like, is there any way in your mind for an employee, because I hear this all the time from other employees that are like, I don't like the phones, not into the phones, but the business owner is trying to make them be into the phones. So 2 questions. The first question, if you did voice up and say something to leadership or Jared saying, I'm not having a good time on the phones, I don't want to do it, do you feel like he would have listened and changed something, or do you feel like nothing would have been? So you do feel like something would have changed?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That makes me feel good.
Yes.
Is there anything in your mind, as the person that was stuck, because I have business owners all the time that are like trying to make people do things they don't want to do, essentially, like the phones. Is there anything that would have motivated you potentially? Like, what is it as simple as I just wanted somebody else to express my displeasures or my failures or my wins to, or is it like, no, I would have needed a bonus of like a significant amount of money to like wake me up and make me go?
I really don't know, and I think it kind of goes back into my personal life. Is at the time I wasn't necessarily motivated by the money. I didn't necessarily have anything I was really working towards, and so I didn't need a bonus or need help pushing me in a direction that the business owner could help, because Jared's really great at the PPF goals.
Yeah.
And there wasn't necessarily anything I was working towards that would make that all the way like good for me, I guess.
And you mentioned, just because you brought it up, you said like most of your like lack of motivation came from like outside of work.
Yeah.
Like you felt like the culture inside of the office, everybody was aligned, humming along, we all had the same goals, but like life in general wasn't just like constantly striving for something. And there's not really anything at work that somebody could have done to be like, Sarah, how do we like, you know, put rocket fuel in your tank? It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. That sucks because, you know, ideally, you being you were an amazing team member, regardless of your phone stats, which are just stats.
Right.
You were awesome. The patients loved you, the people loved you, you fit into the culture amazingly, you knew how to do your job. Some people don't ever learn that part. If there would have been a way to like motivate you, then of course I play the game in my head of like we'd still have Sarah.
Right.
But you're saying there's nothing inside of work that anybody could have done?
I don't know.
Trips, more money.
I do like traveling. I just, at this point in my life, I feel like where I was
filled
going.
out the PPFs, right?
Yeah.
Like that but it didn't do anything for you?
Yeah.
Did you achieve anything on the PPFs?
I did. I wanted to move out of state, and Jared was like, okay, we're opening in Scottsdale, so let's get you out of here.
You were probably motivated, like when you first moved, though.
Oh yeah.
Probably, like ramped up and excited.
That was a big thing that kind of put a pep in my step, is something new, I guess.
Any idea how long that took to like die off? Like was it 1 week and then you're like, okay, this feels normal now and I'm over it?
No, I really, really enjoyed it, even those several months that I was just working from home on the phones, booking easy appointments. I think a couple months into the clinics being back open. When was that? Yeah, November, December, I guess.
The
maybe,
actual office.
Yeah.
It just kind of went back into like
the swing of things,
regular.
and I'm back into where I was in St. George. Yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready for the toughest question?
Sure.
Okay. Why did you leave? Why did you quit?
I think it really does go back into my personal life of I loved my job and I love the people, and there's probably nothing I would have changed at Hearing and Brain Centers and IMA, but as a 19-year-old, I don't necessarily want or need an 8-to-5 job anymore, or right now. I want to go to school and I want to travel, and I feel like that kind of stuff didn't mesh very well.
I think, do you have anything like for the business owners? That a business owner, like picture Jared is watching this film, and you know Jared like is obsessed with solving problems. There comes a point with a lot of business owners that like their staff loses motivation. Is there any like advice that you have for people like Jared or a business owner on like how to establish, is the lack of motivation because I've given this person the wrong job, or is it outside of work? How do you like, how does somebody approach somebody like Sarah Grace and say like, what's going on? What's going on? Is there a right way to do that in your mind?
I don't know. I feel like it would depend on the person.
How would they do it for you though? Because I feel like you and I are close enough that I could, any given day, I could come to you and just be like, I can tell something's wrong.
Right.
So just tell me what's going on. And you would be like, this thing happened, something's going on. And it would either be inside of work or outside of work.
Right.
But if I wasn't Morgan and I was just this, you know, micromanaging manager that didn't know you, how do you like break that wall down of like, I don't want to tell you that my personal life is not good right now? Is there a way that for you as a person, somebody could approach you and ask you the right questions, or?
I don't know. I feel like you and Jared have always been really good about that, and Reese even really good about knowing the employees and knowing what's going on in their personal lives. Not like down to the core, but like have a little bit of an idea of this one's buying a house or this one is having some family problems, just enough to know that something might be going on that week, or like in a couple weeks there might be a little bit of stress. But it's hard to say how I would tell somebody to approach that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I know a lot of people deal with it, and they always struggle with like, is it me as a leader or a business owner that I'm like unfairly putting things on Sarah, or is Sarah's personal life just chaotic right now, and that's bleeding into work? So it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. Anything in your mind that like you wished I would have known back then, or 2 cents for anybody, or just like a parting note to anybody that might watch this video? Anything we didn't cover, or just a message to the people that lose young people like yourself that were good employees?
I don't know. I think it's important to think of all your employees individually. It is a team and it is a unit, and everybody wants to go the same way, but I feel like sometimes individually we're not always going to get there at the same time or on the same path. And I think that's something good to know for a business owner, but I think management and leadership and employee and culture at Hearing and Brain Centers is incredible. Probably the best I'll find anywhere, really.
Maybe you'll be back in a few years.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.